Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third episode of Artists Offstage. Joining me today, we have one of our resident artist singers, Joseph Leppek. In this video, we're going to get to know Joseph a little bit more, his life as a resident artist and outside of being a resident artist. So welcome on the show today, Joseph.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and you can actually call me Joey. That's what everybody calls me, so
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. So Joey, how are you? How's
I'm doing
life?
great. It's great. I just got off of a hour-long virtual voice lesson with our instructor, Jason Ferrante, and I'm loving studying with him. It's been like a really great time with him. So yeah, I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, a bit of a shift going from in-person lessons to virtual, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Cool. Well, I'll start this off kind of how we've started the last two episodes and just kind of getting to know you a little bit from all the way from the very beginning. So one of my favorite questions to ask is, what is one of the first like childhood memories that you can think of?
So I think my earliest memory is my grandparents' cottage being in there. They've always been like, they're Michigan people to their core, so they've always had like forest cabins and like lake houses.
Oh, I love that.
And I remember very vividly being in their cabin, which had like this beautiful windowed view of the woods. And I remember Christmas, and I remember their big tree, and I remember being around with my brother and my cousins, and we were having like a cousin sleepover for the holidays, and we put all of our like chairs together to make little beds, and we just like hung out, and it's just like a really warm memory that was probably my earliest.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I feel like
Yeah,
you're describing like a movie.
I know. It kind of feels like a movie in my mind, honestly.
Oh, that sounds so cool. That sounds so cool. Yeah, the idea of looks like big family gatherings, like the snow, the holidays. It's just
Yeah,
gives you all the warm and fuzzies.
yeah. Christmas is my favorite time of year for that reason. I love it. Yeah.
So, what did your childhood sound like or smell like? What are some of those sounds and smells that really take you back to your childhood?
My childhood sounded like the Beach Boys, if I had to
Ooh.
like really describe it. Um, there's this really funny picture of me in sunglasses driving in a convertible with the top down, and like I used to have blonde hair as a kid. It was like blowing in the wind, but I just remember there was always like Beach Boys playing in the background. And they said that I used to sing along to it all the time. And that was when they first had like an inclination that I was going to be a singer because I loved listening to them. And in terms of what it smelled like, I mean, I hate to just continue to describe a Hallmark movie, but it smells like the forest. It smells like all the pine trees in Michigan, and it smells like the lake and fresh water. And that was just a huge part of my childhood. And it was very idyllic and very Hallmark.
Yeah. Are there any particular Beach Boys songs that kind of draw you back?
Oh yeah, the wouldn't it be nice if we were older? And I know it's like a good one. The best.
Oh, that's so good. Now, when you were a child, did you know that you were going to be a singer, or what did you think you were gonna be when you grew up?
I used to be really into singing and performing for my family, but it was never, my parents are both computer scientists, so they never have like been exposed to that much music. But I used to rock that karaoke machine that they bought me, and I was obsessed with Britney Spears when I was a kid, and I used to sing like all of her songs on the karaoke machine until my parents were so sick of me. But like as I grew older, I kind of moved away from that, and I got a little shy and I got a little more reserved, and I remember thinking very much that I was going to be like a natural scientist. I was really into forestry when I was 12 for some reason, and I thought I would just be like hiking the woods and like studying animal species and stuff like that, which sounds gross to me now, but as a kid, that was exciting.
So, when did it change? When did you decide, okay, maybe singing is going to be my thing?
Yeah, when I was like 13, 14, my mom, I remember a car ride with my mom, and I had taken piano lessons since I was a kid.
Okay.
And my piano teacher had like a choir, a community choir that she was trying to get boys to join. And so she pulled my mom aside and was like, "Oh, your kid has good musical talent. He plays piano well. Maybe he should consider joining our choir." And my mom was like, "Oh no, he would hate that. He's like so shy. He'll never go for it." But I remember on the car ride home in the piano, she was like, "Joey, have you ever thought about singing? Like, you should audition for her choir. She's really looking for boys." And I was like, "No way, I'm not going to do that." But she convinced me, and I went and I auditioned, and my piano teacher was immediately like, "Oh, you got to be part of our choir." And then that year I was in the choir and I was singing the lead in like church musical, and it was like, from then on it was like, I'm a singer, I'm a performer. Yeah, I loved it.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Would you say that is one of your more influential teachers that you've had over the years?
Yeah, I definitely have to blame her for this whole like fine arts career thing, because I mean, even by that small gesture alone, she completely introduced me to a whole new world. And even though I don't really stay in contact with her now, I do owe her a lot. And I remember when I was in high school, I have this like, I found all these like vases that have all these music notes on them, and I found like four. I bought like four, and they kind of like signified, like I gave them to people who had signified like really important like moments for me. And so she was a receiver of one of those vases, and that sounds cheesy, but I hope that she thinks of it whenever she thinks of me whenever she pulls it out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's such a
there's a
good gesture.
yeah.
So outside of this particular teacher, who have been your biggest cheerleaders throughout your life?
Um, I have this one. I have a couple people who are pretty special to me, but I was part of this program when I was in high school called the Rackham Choir Internship, and it was a thing I found about through a choir teacher, and I auditioned for it, and they ended up taking me into this program, and I sang with their choir. And they also provided funding for my voice lessons. They provided me coachings every week with their coach, and it was like kind of the start of my professional training. And the head of that, she has been my biggest cheerleader, one of my biggest cheerleaders, and she is the chorus master at MOT. And every time I go home, I visit her, and Suzanne Acton. Sorry, I didn't say her name. Her name is Suzanne Acton, and I visit her pretty frequently when I stop by home. And I also stop by my high school voice teacher's house just for like a catch up, or whatever, just to check in with her. Dr. Linda Meehan, and she's great. And just those people that I met very early on who started me out, they always have been some of my biggest cheerleaders, and they, always have rooted me along. And obviously my parents and my grandmother. My grandma is like obsessed with opera now.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I know, and she's probably a bigger opera fan than I am at this point, but she is probably my biggest fan, and she sends me opera news magazines all the time, and she is always up to date with all the Med and HD broadcasts, and she's just so passionate about it, and I love that. It always puts a smile.
Was that an interest that came about because of you?
I think it was. She definitely had been to operas before, but I don't think that she would have been as into it as she is now without her I mean, she loves all of her four grandchildren equally, and everything that we do is her passion. So I love her.
That's so great, and it's
Yeah.
so nice to hear like stories about that kind of support around so many parts of your life.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. Well, going into my next question here, what would you say are the biggest rewards and challenges of pursuing a singing career like you are?
That's a big one. Now moving
Yep.
into like some tough questions. Um, I think that the rewards are, I mean, they're incredible, obviously. Um, I think for me, going into music was something that, and you don't really realize this until you're at the ripe age of 27. I mean, I'm still young, but after so many experiences in this field, I think I realized how much of an impact it had on me personally. Because when I was in middle school, I didn't really fit in very well, and I had a lot of trouble getting along with my classmates and feeling like I belonged. I felt like kind of an outsider, and I think that as soon as I discovered choir and theater, I felt like I belonged somewhere, and I felt like there was like some importance to like my life and my talent, which meant a lot to 13-year-old Joey, who was really, felt really weird and awkward. And it just like, it changed my life. I mean, the people I met in it, performing on the stage, it just completely like opened me up in a new way that I had never experienced. And I think that that was like a theme that was going to like go through my whole life, is that music and this community of theater is so welcoming and has been so transformative to me and has allowed me to be myself. And I'm not sure that I would be as comfortable with myself as I am now if I hadn't had pursued this career in theater. And yeah, and the challenges, I mean, like it's it's been really hard. I think something that I didn't anticipate or really consider when I was doing this was the kind of personal sacrifices that you have to make to do this, because it really does demand everything of you. And if you really want to succeed, there are thousands and thousands of people who want to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's competitive. And so you become like easily replaceable. And so what people demand of you is that you give everything. So, I mean, this is like, I've moved to Minnesota this year, and this is like the 6th time I've made a major move in my life. And it's just like hopping from region to region to state. It becomes like exhausting not having your community of people and your family close by, and your friends are really far away. And it's just like you make a lot of personal sacrifices for the art. But as I said, there was a lot of personal gain from being in the art, and I never would have met those people and made those great friends unless I had done it. It's just like I wish that I was in the same area as them. And yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to a lot of those challenges.
Yeah.
Um, so when you aren't singing or you're not working or practicing, what is Joey usually doing?
Um, Playing video games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more. What video games? What console? Are you excited
Well,
about
I'm
PS5?
right. I am a huge gaming nerd, which is like so nerdy. I mean, I keep this part pretty hidden because I'm a little embarrassed about how much of a nerd I am, but yeah,
Aren't we
right.
all?
It's cool now. It's 2020. We're allowed to be nerds. Like that's
Yeah,
like yeah,
and everyone's a nerd about a different thing.
exactly. But I was a huge computer gamer when I've played League of Legends since I was like a teenager, and I've played Minecraft since I was a teenager, and I've always been a huge Nintendo fanboy. So like,
Yeah.
I love Super Smash Brothers, and I love all the Mario games, and I love like, I'm a big indie gamer. I'm like really into like those kind of hidden gems that you find. Like, I don't know if anybody who's watching this likes video games. I highly recommend Hades, which is a new game that's like really excellent. And I've actually got my boyfriend really into video games, and he was not a gamer to start, but now we're like playing games together, and we play like Minecraft and this game called Escapist. Oh, there's so many good games out there. It's just like a whole wealth of like. Oh, and I also love board games. So it's not only virtual. Yeah, I also
Yeah.
love like um I used to play Dungeons and Dragons a lot when I was in high school, which is I'm so like cringy to admit it, but I love Dungeons and Dragons. It's like a great game, and anybody who might like judge it for, you know, all the connotations that that comes for is like missing out on a really cool experience. And for me, Dungeons and Dragons is all about like cooperative storytelling, and it feels a lot like if you've ever done an improvisation or like sort of those theater games, Dungeons and Dragons for me is a lot like that. And it's all just like writing a narrative of characters together as a group, and I think that there's just nothing more like satisfying than that. So
Yeah.
yikes. Just publicly admitted I've liked Dungeons and Dragons.
We're gonna go now.
Yeah, right. Okay.
To wrap things up here. No, that sounds super fun, and I feel like, you know, so many people have their own kind of like niche interest that like at first maybe when we were younger we were made to feel bad about it, and then as you get older you kind of start owning it and you're like, yeah, this is something that I love, and it brings me a lot of joy and fills my time and all those things. I definitely love some of those things, which I will not share today.
It's my job to share the embarrassing hobby.
Yes, yeah. So a little bit back to singing, like obviously the resident artist program looks totally different than it has in previous years. And I know this is your first year in the program, but how has it been for you this particular year in comparison to maybe like other programs that you've done? Like, what are you hoping to like get out of this year? Given that we don't have necessarily like main stage performances to we normally would.
For me at least, this is my 5th program that I've done, young artist program. Which is such a silly concept because we're like all adults and like we are artists in our own right, but like it's an important, if these didn't exist for us, then I wouldn't be doing anything. I mean, I'm so grateful to be here and so lucky to have these programs that exist for young artists like us who are at a point in our life where we really need this kind of stability and support. Because as I said, it's a very tough field to break into. It's a very tough field to get noticed in. And these programs are the proving grounds and the training grounds for artists in America. And this is no exception. Actually, Minnesota Opera's program is probably one of the most well-regarded programs among like my peers. And so I was very excited to get in here and I was very excited to come. And then obviously COVID happened. And like it changed a little bit. It changed, well, not a little bit, it changed a lot. Like I was supposed to sing 3 roles on the stage, which is really my joy and my the reason why I do these programs is to sing on stage and to perform. And I just want to perform and perform and perform. I could never like stop performing. And so it was really disappointing to have to come to terms with the fact that that would not be happening. And I was actually in Kansas City, the Kansas City resident program before this, and I was in the middle of a show. I was doing Lucia di Lammermoor, and it was like they called us on the phone and they were like, hey, so the 3rd and 4th show are canceled. Like, we're not doing them. And I was like, crap, this is serious. Like, this is really big. And, you know, it just kept going on. And then it was like, we're not doing the shows in Minnesota. And I was like, oh God, like so disappointed. But what it has given us, I think, all of the reps is an opportunity to focus on our craft in a way that we would be so distracted and so busy preparing roles and staging and stuff like that, that we have all of this like spare time to just like look at, like I've been studying, I was supposed to study Lenski for Eugene Onegin, which is one of my dream roles. And I've been able to like take Russian coachings every week and sometimes multiple times a week and coach the role with Alan Periello every time I see him. And like, it's almost like I have the whole thing learned now. And that's amazing. Like you never have that kind of free time to just dive into projects that you're passionate about and like really focus on getting better and improving your crafts, which is what we're all here for, you know? So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's so much value in, you know, the performance aspect of it and the being in rehearsals with other professionals in the field and all of that. But there's also so much value in in honing your craft and really taking the time to like take all of these pieces apart, which we wouldn't normally have the luxury to do when
Yeah.
you're going from rehearsal to coaching and all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's given us I mean, it gives everybody an opportunity to just like exhale a little bit, and just like, I mean, stay home, stay home. Everybody needs to be staying home right now, but like, it's nice to just kind of get that time. I mean, for me, it's been a blessing to spend so much time with my boyfriend and so much time just like relaxing, and like enjoying life a little bit and not being on the hustle train all the time and being a workaholic all the time, that gets really tiring. So,
Yeah, yeah. Do you think
yeah.
it's made a difference in sort of the how we think of like relationships, both professional and personal, like during this time?
Oh, I definitely think so. I think that there has been a lot of things that have been re-examined during this time. I mean, I know a lot of young artists like myself don't want to go back to where we were before the whole industry shut down, but um not only professionally in making changes, but also personally, like this time has really taught me that I really do value time with my loved ones. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of made me re-examine like how much I want to sacrifice for this performance career. Do I really want to be packing up all my stuff and jumping in a car and driving from city to city when like I'm so happy just like living life with my loved ones? So it's like it's definitely put it into a new perspective and a new lens that I think everybody's kind of like, is there like a way to do this without forcing everybody to like sacrifice so much, But we'll see. Yeah.
Mm. Um, One other question about sort of singing, and maybe this is just like the my inner singing nerd. Like, how do you think about your singing? How do you think about like the way that you like, whether that's working technique, whether that's preparing a role, or right now, not necessarily we're not preparing for a performance per se, but how do you keep your voice in shape and all of those types of things?
Yeah. I'm not the most technical of singers. I will admit that. I am super into technique as any opera singer is, but I've always been a very like natural kind of what feels right is right. And I've always tried to approach things from a very like, well, how would I say this? Or how would I emote this? Or what am I trying to communicate? And as opposed to like, what do I have to do with my instrument to make it happen? Although this year I definitely have been thinking a lot more about technique than I have in the past and what I'm doing to make it a consistent sound. And that uh it's been like it's a daily practice. It is a daily check-in. It is it feels sometimes like a new idea every week. Like this week I'm focusing on my chest resonance, or this week I'm focusing on raising my soft palate, or what's my larynx doing, or what vowel. It's like almost like whack-a-mole, honestly. Like, oh, there's the vowel placement, there's like the palette, or and so sometimes that gets so overwhelming to me and it just bogs me down. And in a performance setting and as an artist, I can't be constantly thinking about that, or I would be a nervous wreck every time I got up to sing. So I feel like for me, the more that I've been able to let go of that and trust that all of this, like, right, I have a master's degree, I've been in all these different performances or whatever, I've had training since I was a child,
Mhm.
like that means something. And sometimes what my instinct is absolutely correct. And I just need to like forget about like all of that noise and just try to focus on a few things. What am I trying to communicate? And maybe like one technical idea.
Mhm.
And like, then that's what produces a successful and evocative kind of performance for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're speaking to something that it's sort of the balance between the craft side of things and the art side of things, right? Like
Yeah.
the
Arts
craft
and
is sort
crafts.
of that like that grind of like the tweaking and whack-a-mole and all of those things, and the art being, what you're trying to communicate, what you're trying to emote. Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, definitely. But like this time is definitely a time to be focusing on the technique, you know, because we're not performing. So check back in. What's my soft palate doing? You know, what's my larynx doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just have one more question, and I like to end things always kind of on a positive note. And not that what we were talking about wasn't positive, but just leave things on a joyous moment. So where are you currently finding inspiration or joy right now?
um, RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
You know, like yes, no. um, I am forcing my boyfriend to watch every season of RuPaul's Drag Race, and now we are finally reaching our final season together. And
Wow.
it's yeah, it has been a journey, and there is a lot to discover in those shows, especially as a gay man. It's just a very they are talking about really serious issues in that show in really serious especially as a performer and an
Mm.
artist, they are up there doing it and being very vulnerable. And you learn every episode. I feel like I'm in tears. And it's like, I think that's what makes it so successful is there's so much heart to the show as well as talent and entertainment. It's like also very therapeutic and joyful. Yeah.
Oh, I love to hear
Yeah.
that.
I don't know if you're a fan, but I'm a huge fan. So
I have to say I haven't watched very many episodes, just caught a couple here and there, but maybe I'll have to do the whole journey of beginning to end as well.
yeah, get into it. I mean, I got my dad to watch a whole season and he loves it. So like, I mean, it's for everybody, not just for whatever.
Yeah, yeah. No, my brother is very much into it, and he's always tried to get me to watch it too, and so it's about time.
Yeah, it's time. I'm saying.
Well, Joey, thank you so much for spending this time with me. It's been a blast just getting to talk to you, getting to know you a little bit more as a person, who you are, where you're from, all of those things. Yeah, thanks again, and hopefully we see you on the stage sooner rather than later.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you so much.
Of course, take care.
You too.